I'm MC Toon, and it's Tuesday night. Well, it's not really Tuesday night, but it's always Tuesday night when I'm streaming doing a live stream. So let's just imagine that it's Tuesday night. I have with me in the studio, not the studio. It's not even a studio. I mean, Robert Greenlee. Oh, and we've got just joining, just popping in. We've got Billy Santo. So welcome, Robert.
Hi, everybody. Good to see y'all again.
Robert tonight. Oh, it says Tyler. I gotta fix that. Robert will be supporting the globe position, and supporting the flat Earth position. We've got Billy. How are you, Billy?
I'm good.
Welcome.
Okay.
So this is a response. Billy, you did a post on Facebook saying that Globers never debate. And your response to that was a whole bunch of people agreeing to debate. So Robert was one of them, and I was happy to host. So I'm hosting, and I'll be involved, but not nearly as much as Robert and Billy. So with that, so it's no format. I will just hand it over to you two.
Okay, well, Billy, I mean, it's I've done a few of these, but why don't you kind of introduce yourself, and then I'll do the same. And then we had a couple of topics we agreed upon ahead of time, so I think we'll jump into those. But why don't you introduce yourself first?
Yeah, morning, everyone in Africa, Kenya. I'm Billy from Kenya, Flat Earther. 1.5 years I've been into Flat Earth, and I'm happy to be here to discuss this.
Okay. I think a lot of you guys know me, Robert Greenlee. I don't do this for as much as Mike and Craig do, but I do run. Hey, I'll call it the largest official flat Earth and globe discussion group. Thank you, Nathan. So I do run that group and help out with many other groups as well. So many of you know me from Facebook. But other than that, I'd say we're going. So one of the first topics that Billy had brought up, I think you were debating Craig, weren't you, last, Billy?
Mm-hmm.
And you had brought up that flight paths were evidence of the flat Earth, and especially some emergency flights. And I was kind of curious if as we kind of mentioned before in our preparation, is like, I'd like for you to give me an example of one of those flights, especially if it was one that was published in like a news article saying an emergency flight went from here to here and had to divert to there. Kind of give us an idea of, where did the flight take off from? Where was it supposed to land? Where did it divert to? And then we'll go through and I'll show you some of the tools that we use, because I am a private pilot and flying for about 18 years. I'll show you some of the tools that we use to actually plan the flights. We'll plan it out, show you what it looks like, maybe compare it against a flat Earth map. So I think we'll kind of step through it and show you what process I go through as I'm planning and looking at one of these things.
Okay. Now this map is, I understand it resembles the Flat Earth map in terms of the way continents and the distribution and the outlay looks like. So in all of those, and this one represents the globe path. So these flight paths, if you look at them critically, they work so well, because I understand aeroplanes fly on a flat plane. That's why it's called a plane. And they don't dip their noses every time when they are moving on the globe, which should supposed to happen if the Earth was a globe. Then I've got some few points before I show some flight paths. You see, that's also one of the most solid evidences that the Earth is not a globe, because the way emergency landings, the way they happen mostly, And there's a book for that which has been published to explain in detail how those emergency landings happen and how they don't make sense on the globe, but they do make sense on the flat Earth. So it's a little bit more detailed. I may not have the details, on my head on everything on that, but we look at some of them. Then you see in the flight book, the flight in the flight school, flight dynamic summary. The first point they tell you, you have to make assumption when you're studying how to be a pilot or with those when you're studying to be a pilot, you make assumption that the Earth is flat and there's no curvature, zero curvature. Then you make assumption that there is an unrotating Earth, no Coriolis, acceleration and such present. So, it makes you wonder, why should you make assumption, yet if the world was a globe, you should put those into consideration. That is one major also point, because they teach you to assume there is no curvature. They teach you to assume the Earth is not rotating.
So Billy, can I ask you a quick question about that? In that same line, it also says that, let me answer a quick question for you first. In that same line, it says that aircraft are rigid and have constant mass. They also assume that. Do you know what that means?
Please expound.
So right there in that exact same line, where they're saying, assume a flat Earth, assume it's stationary, they say assume the aircraft is rigid and has constant mass. So do you have any idea what that means?
There are a few other assumptions. I took the two because I saw it is relevant to my discussion today.
Yeah. Well, you made a great point there. You took the assumptions which fit what you wanted to say, but you don't look at all the assumptions together. Why would you ignore two of them and then only accept the ones that you accept?
Because this is what talks about the structure of the Earth. The other one talks about the mechanics and all that, about flight and aeroplane and all that. But this one here, right, talk about the nature of the Earth. That's why I dwelt on the first two, because that's what we are discussing this morning. So I'm trying to get that. Yeah, the dynamic summary. Yeah, in that flight dynamic summary, I don't know, I don't have the full one. But in this, point 1.1.2, making assumptions. So the first two, there is a flat Earth. Then there is a non-rotating Earth. Then I think you said the aircraft has constant mass.
Correct.
And the other, you see, that now concerns the aircraft, not about the shape of the Earth. So you see, that also is a big, that shows that, if they assume that in the flight school, then it means when they are doing everything else, the aircraft, it means the Earth is flat. Then, why are there no flights mostly on the southern part if the Earth was a globe? All of the flights are concentrated on the northern part. Most of the traffic, even if you get those applications which shows, the flight traffic, you'll see probably 90% of the flight will be concentrated on the northern hemisphere if the Earth was a globe. Why don't we have flights going over the South Pole?
So Billy, what percentage of the human population live in the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere?
Then last point, so that maybe you can defend that. Last point before we get into the emergency, the north-south. We only have the east-west, west-east circumnavigation. Mostly, that's what we hear about that. Why don't we have the north-south? Why can't we have a plane go all the way? There are few cases which were said to be circumnavigation north-south, but if you really look keenly into that, they didn't cross over the pole, up and cross over the pole. They just did the up to the pole and then back down to where they came from. Then they said, oh, we have circumnavigated. But in the real sense, they didn't cross over the pole and then cross over the other side. So there have not been very conclusively shown flight which has gone circumnavigated north, south, never. So those are the things which tells you that makes you ask questions. If you are critically looking into it, you start to see it doesn't make sense because the world is not a globe, but the world is flat.
All right. Well, let me address just a couple of your points real quick. First of all, the flight dynamics articles that or PDFs that you're talking about have nothing to do with flight training. What they're talking about is the engineering and doing flight dynamics modeling of the aircraft itself. How does it react at different speeds? How does it react at different weights? So those are factors as it's flying along. They're like, and keep in mind that most of those PDFs you see are, from the 60s, 70s, before we had all the computer power that we have today. So to simplify all the calculations, they take things that don't really matter, like the shape of the Earth, the things they can't control, like the weight of the aircraft. They know the aircraft don't have a constant mass because they burn fuel. As you're flying along, the aircraft get lighter and lighter and lighter. They're not rigid. They have control surfaces that move. They have aircraft engines that turn. But those are static. They're things that, they're going to be there no matter what. So they say, we're taking these criteria, the shape of the Earth, the movement of the Earth, that don't really matter much to the flight dynamics modeling, and saying we're going to ignore those. So those have absolutely nothing to do with flight training. Like I said, I've been flying for 18 years. I can show you many of the reference guides that pilots learn off of, and you will not find the word flat Earth in any of them. It's, kind of the flat Earth thing. Oh, we found this old article from the 70s about flight dynamics. That means all pilots are trained on flat Earth. No, that has nothing to do with pilot training. Absolutely nothing. Dipping the nose. Are you familiar with the pressure gradient in the atmosphere?
Pressure gradient?
The pressure gradient. So at sea level, air pressure is 14.7 psi. As you go higher up, air gets thinner and thinner and thinner. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay. So when an aircraft is flying, and the higher the aircraft goes, the thinner the air gets. When the aircraft reaches their cruising altitude, we have something called trim. And trim just adjusts the elevator a little bit so that when the aircraft gets at the cruising altitude, the pilot sets the amount of power they want, and they adjust the trim so that the aircraft is no longer climbing or descending. So it's kind of staying at that same altitude. What they're actually adjusting the aircraft is telling it, I want it to maintain that particular pressure altitude that it's at. So say at 30,000 feet, the air pressure is only 12 psi. So the aircraft, once it's trimmed for that 12 psi, as it's flying around the Earth, that 12 psi is 30,000 feet above the surface of the Earth. As they're going around the Earth, that pressure gradient is also following the shape of the Earth, and the aircraft is going to follow that altitude as well. Now, there are variances because, say, for example, if you fly through a cold front where they're going from a warm area to a cold area, the air pressure changes and they have to retrim the aircraft. But there's no need for the pilot to say, for every 8 inches over a mile, I got to keep pushing the nose down, because the aircraft, once it's trimmed, maintain that pressure altitude, will automatically maintain that altitude because that's what it's trimmed out for. So it's not something that the pilot's thinking about. Is once they trim the aircraft will automatically maintain that pressure altitude, and there's no need for them to push the nose over. That make sense at all?
Is that what autopilot is all about? No.
Not really, because they're almost two different things. I mean, trimming the aircraft, the autopilot actually uses the trim to make changes as need be. But trim is basically you're getting that aircraft set to where you want it. The autopilot will make small changes, even as you hit little bumps in the air, turbulence taking you up and down, the autopilot will correct it. But generally, you could set that trim, let go of the controls, and it'll stay right around that same altitude. There's actually a fun trick that we learned in pilot school where we'll get up there, we'll trim the aircraft, and we'll purposely either pull back on the airplane or push forward to make it go up or down, and then we let go. And it takes it about a minute, but it'll stabilize back down to around the altitude where you started at, because it wants to reach that equalization.
All right. Fair enough. So you said that the flight dynamics is, what I read here is outdated.
Not outdated, meaning they were well, I say it probably is outdated because today when they're modeling aircraft, they're using these supercomputers and they can basically factor in every single thing that they want to factor in. The Boeing 777 was the first commercial aircraft that was modeled 100% by computer. In the old days, they would actually design aircraft on, clay models and fiberglass, and they'd stick them in an air chamber and run air across them and say, well, that didn't work. Let's go back and remodel it again. This aircraft was the first one that was 100% designed on computer, and they were able to do all the computer modeling there, and then they would finally take the final models and stick them in a wind tunnel. But the computer power we have today is tremendously greater than they had back then, so there isn't as much of a need to simplify the model. So that's why you haven't seen a recent, within the past couple of years, article saying, hey, we had to eliminate or assume all these things because they have enough computer power to calculate those without having to simplify it.
So they no longer make assumptions, or do they still make assumptions?
They don't have to anymore because now the computers can do all that calculation.
They don't assume flatter.
Nope.
Okay, good. Okay, I've heard that from you first time that they nowadays assume from they don't assume the.
Yeah, but that's why you find all of those articles where they assume are all pretty old. They're all 20, 30 years old.
All right. Okay, fair enough. Traffic on the southern hemisphere, your explanation didn't make any sense. Why don't you have traffic there and we have people moving all over?
Yep. Yeah. So I kind of asked you the question. You talk about the majority of the flights, and you're absolutely right. The majority of flights are in the northern hemisphere because that's where the majority of people are. I mean, why would you have 100 flights a day going from Africa to Australia if there's only maybe 500 people taking that trip? Or going across the oceans in the northern hemisphere, there's thousands and thousands of people making that trip every day because there's a lot more people up there.
Well, I think your explanation is a lot of people are traveling up here on the globe than down here.
Correct? Yeah, because there's a lot more people up there.
Yeah, that's the reason why we have so much flight up here. But I think my reason, because you see, we have probably, I'll say, maybe a third below the equator, a third of the land mass and the countries compared to upper. So it makes a little bit sense because most people are living on the upper side of the globe. But then still, if you look at the flight traffic, still should have been like a third of, in relation to the size population and sizes. But you see, most of this traffic from the south usually passed by the north. First, if you observe carefully on the globe, the flight from maybe Southern America or South Africa, let me talk of South Africa to Australia, will go up first through Europe or Asia and then back down to Australia, which didn't make so much sense to me and others who have started to see this, because they should have just crossed straight across the Indian Ocean into Australia. I don't know why they have to go all the way up and then back down to Australia.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind that we're talking like a lot of passenger flights. If you want to fly from the classic going from Sydney, Australia to Santiago, Chile flight, now they haven't resumed that flight since COVID happened. But to make that type of flight where you're flying 14, 15 hours, you're filling up a jumbo jet, there have to be enough passengers to fill that jet to make it profitable for the airline. They're not going to take up a 400 passenger jet, stick 50 people on it and fly it across the ocean because they'll lose a lot of money. So that's really the first criteria for the airline is, are there enough passengers to put on that plane to go fly across the ocean that way? If there aren't enough passengers, then typically if you want to go between those locations, you've got to go through a hub. So a hub is basically a central location where like I'm trying to think of a good example here, but say, Delta Airlines goes to Atlanta in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. So Atlanta is one of the main hubs for Delta Airlines. So you may want to go from, Texas to New York, but maybe there's not a direct flight from Texas to New York because there aren't enough passengers. So you'll fly from Texas to Atlanta and then change airplanes and then Atlanta to New York. It's not the same airplane. It's not like bad airplanes going to Atlanta and then turning the corner and flying up to New York. You're getting off that airplane, getting on another airplane and going up. So it's the same thing. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere and there is no direct flight, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have to fly up to a hub airport, change airplanes, and fly back down again, because that's how the airplanes are scheduling their flights, or the airlines are. There are exceptions to that. The Qantas Air flight that does go, or did go until COVID, that would go straight from Santiago to Sydney and back, but they haven't resumed that flight again yet.
Okay, you said economically it makes sense to do that, right? Economically.
It doesn't economically for the airlines, not necessarily for the passengers, because sometimes it costs you more money.
I should have thought that it makes more sense if it flies direct on a straight
It does
line,
make more sense if it's profitable.
because it's way short on the globe.
Yeah.
I understand there may be need to refuel depending on the aircraft size and all that.
Yeah.
But why not refuel in South Africa or anywhere else? Why all the way up? Still, even if it's economic or to get more passenger, we could have like half the flight from Chile, Australia, half of them go direct, half of them should have been going, to pick more passengers. But the situation we have is all of the flight have to pass through that.
No.
90% of the flight, which still doesn't make sense. It was like half of them have to go and pick passengers here and then all the way down. Economically, it will make sense. But if all the flight has to pass there and none has to go direct, then still doesn't make sense. But if you look at those information, the flight path critically on this map, you'll realize that it's just a straight line, direct. If you look at this, you see, you'll realize South Africa to Australia, it's probably a small detour to Europe for refueling. That makes sense. If you look at South America to Australia or South America to Europe, it makes so much sense because it passes nearly a straight line. So it makes more sense to me when I saw this. This is one of the biggest things which really convinced me, because I saw a video on these flight paths and it made so much sense to me.
So on your Gleason's map there, can you draw a line from Santiago to Sydney?
Okay.
If you don't want to draw on it, maybe use your string that I asked you to get, but draw it out on your map what a nonstop flight would look like between Santiago and Sydney.
Can use this. Yeah, I may not know where that. I have to read where it is. Where is it? Southern America?
It is. It's on the west coast. I'm trying to find here. Like I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen out. There you can look at my screen and you can see where it's at.
Yeah, I can't read this. It's not, the printed is not so clear.
Yeah. So this is you can see this is where Santiago is.
Okay. Yeah, on the eastern coast.
Yeah. West coast of actually.
West. Yeah, that's west.
Yeah, the other eastern coast.
Yeah.
East. Yeah. East. Okay. Santiago. Two.
And that's going to go to Australia, which is kind of on this lower east coast of Australia.
Lower, which place in Australia?
So this is Sydney. That's Sydney, Australia there.
It's on the east coast of Australia.
Yep. So I'll zoom back out just a little bit so you can see it better.
Okay. That's the... Okay, I think I've got the point. Put a string from this point here. I don't know whether you can see me.
Yep.
If you stop your share, then I can make him bigger.
Yeah, let me stop my share here. Then a second. There you go.
You mean from this point here?
Correct.
To this point here.
Yes.
Yep.
And I put a string. And then what?
So how many miles is that?
Sorry, how many?
How many miles is that? We try to kind of get your string put in place, but can you tell me how many miles that is?
Okay, I need to measure it out.
I'm sure you're going to know this, Mike, off the top of your head, but I'm drawing a blank on the flight number for that Sydney to Santiago flight.
That's QF27.
QF27, yeah. I knew you'd have that memorized.
Yeah, it's 27 and 28, and then between to go to South Africa, Johannesburg.
I'm not sure if what I'm seeing is correct, but
is 6364. QF 6364.
I'll go by your number. A straight line to those two cities. I'll go by your number. I want to hear your argument about that.
Yeah. Well, if you look at it, so I'm going to share my screen again real fast. And as we mentioned, it's kind of funny. I bought an electric bike the other day, and now all of my advertisements are coming up for electric bikes. So Google knows what you're doing.
All right.
So this is one of the last flights for QF27, which is from Sydney, Australia to Santiago, Chile. This is a direct flight. It takes about 14 to 15 hours, kind of depending upon the wind. And we come down to here. This one was actually flying kind of low at the time at 29,000 feet. But you can see the distance is 7127 miles. Now, if we were to look at, how long is it from, by the way, this is for flight here. So I'm going to kind of show you something real quick. If I say I want to schedule a flight from, LAX, so Los Angeles to New York City, that is 2,051 nautical miles. So if you were looking at, let's go look at a Gleason's map. Let me bring it up real fast. There we go. Bring us to my other screen. So it is 2,000 miles from here to here, just across the United States, kind of going across the United States. If I were to extrapolate out from here down to here, if this is 2,000 miles, how many miles do you think, just rough guess, to go from there all the way down to there?
Should be around, if that is 2,000,
yeah, this
will be more than 10,000 miles. Maybe more than 10,000 miles.
Yeah. So let's go, I'm just kind of, this is, like I said, we're just kind of they're winging this. Let's go look at the specs on the Boeing 787. Boeing 787 specifications. Aircraft characteristics. So we're going to Boeing's website. Let me look at it. I'm going to find a little easier one here. 787, same thing, of course. Aircraft performance range. So 787 is one of the top aircraft now for long range flights. That's payload range. Okay. So in nautical miles, it can go, if you're kind of flying lower weight, it can go at the maximum 10,000 miles, at the very, very max. If we're kind of a typical thing, we're probably closer to about 9,400. But if we were to look at, again, at your Gleason's map, and I did this once, let me see if I can find it real fast. I kind of did the math a little bit better. I know I had this in here in my folder somewhere, but it came out about over 12,000 miles when you extrapolated that out, which is further than any aircraft can actually fly nonstop. So that flight on the flat Earth map is logistically impossible for that particular airplane to fly. It's just not possible. On the globe, on the other hand, and this is where I'm going to go back in the ForeFlight here. This is that flight. Wrong one. Let me look at here. There we go. This is that flight on a 2D map. It just shows me that, taking off from this is actually the other direction, but taking off from Santiago, going to Sydney. Here's the aircraft. It's 6135 nautical miles. Now, keep in mind that the over here was the statute miles. So let's convert nautical miles to statute. Convert 6135 nautical miles to statute miles. Oh, come on. Yeah. Cool. Just to see how far off. So my map, my tool said 6135. That converts to 7,060 statute miles. And comparing that to what FlightAware said, 71. And keep in mind that if you look at their path, let's see if it'll let me decode it. It's not going to work very well. They're basically counting on, they take off, they're flying the departure pattern. So there's always a little bit longer than mine, where I'm just going from point A to point B. But it's pretty close from what ForeFlight is saying to what the actual flight did this particular time. So we look at it, here's the 2D view where you kind of see it dipping south towards Antarctica. Let me bring over the actual, this is the application on my iPad that we use and all pilots use in the cockpit. Come on, grab you silly thing. So this is what it looks like in a 3-dimensional view. So I take off from Sydney, I'm heading south, get pretty close to Antarctica, not quite over, and then I come back up. So you think, well, why does that make sense? If you take that same piece of string you have and put it on your globe and run it from Sydney to Santiago, and I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so you can show us what it looks like. Run your piece of string on your globe from Sydney to Santiago.
Sorry, on the globe?
Yep.
Yeah, I am getting your point, because in this map and your calculations, your point is it's way off, cannot be all that distance, but on the globe, it's roughly the same. But you see, I have an issue with these maps. Okay, it's a bit shorter. If I run a string across and I compare it to what I had in the Gleason's map and the globe, it's a bit shorter. But you see, I have an issue with the maps, because the is it called Macaldama? The maps which we see on the atlases and the one which projects the image, it's distorted. First and foremost, it's distorted because they say they are putting it according to there's some, it's not really correct in scale. So I have an issue when you use the map and then you again compare it to, the Mercator map is not the correct map to use to do scale.
You're right. I mean, most maps have some level of distortion to them, especially when you're trying to take a 3-dimensional object and put it on a 2D piece of paper. Totally agree with you. Most maps are distorted. What I was showing you in ForeFlight is based on WGS 84, which is now accurate down to centimeter level accuracy. So we can't get much more accurate than that. And really the key
Is that
thing,
flight-
go ahead.
Is that flight? I think you are more aware about flights more than me. Does it, how can I say it? Does it happen nowadays?
Unfortunately, it's been postponed during COVID because there weren't enough, nobody's allowed to fly between countries. I think I heard they're planning on bringing it back sometime soon. But yeah, it has been postponed for over a year because of COVID.
Okay.
They used to fly it, I think, about 2-3 times a week before COVID happened.
And they'll fly 7,000 miles.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, if you look online, just go look at Google, there's actually quite a few videos of people who actually took the flight and they took pictures as they got close to Antarctica and they talked about the experience of doing that flight. So you can find a lot of that. So, I mean, we've got records of the flight, not only in the flight tracks, but we've also got, people who are on the flight who took videos and pictures and showed where they went. So there's a lot of evidence out there. The flight is actually happening or it happened.
I'll have to look into that.
Sure.
What's the name of the flight, sorry?
So that one was Qantas, to search for QF27 is the flight number.
QF27.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
If it was doing really 7,000 miles across there, non-stop, whichever way it have happened, was me, I'll just check the distances if it's correct. Because I believe it should be more than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The key takeaway.
If that is flat, it should be more than this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the key takeaway, the key takeaway is not only is that distance on the flat Earth map impossible, but the time is impossible as well, because those flights typically take between 14 and 15 hours. On the flat Earth, I'm going to take a guess here, but now you're looking at probably over 24 hours nonstop. And, no airplane has that big a gas tank. They couldn't fly that long because they wouldn't have enough fuel. And they'd have to fly supersonic to be able to do it in that amount of time. So the distances just don't match up on the flat Earth. But let's go back real fast just to keep us on track. I'd like you to just pick one of those emergency flights that you had questions about. Just pick one, where it was taken off from, where it was going to. And let's take a look at it and see.
I'll pick the common one, the one which from China. Was it
from China or Taiwan?
Taiwan, sorry.
Was it China or Taiwan?
The one with the baby, the one they had a baby inside, my woman delivering, and from Taiwan.
All right.
From Taiwan to Los Angeles.
All right. And they diverted to where?
Yes.
So where did they divert to?
There was an emergency and they landed in Alaska.
Okay, so they went to Anchorage, Alaska.
Yes.
All right. So where do you think, or where did the author in that book think it made more sense for the aircraft to go to?
Sorry. In the globe map, sorry, let me just refer shortly to this.
I think the flight was Taiwan to LAX. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yep. Yes.
And do you have this book here with you? Are you looking through it there? Is that what you're doing, Billy?
Yeah. I have the book with me. Yeah, from Taiwan to Los Angeles.
Yep.
And it landed in Alaska, which would not have happened if it was on a global.
Said the professional flight planner.
Yeah. So where did he think the aircraft should have gone to, which would make more sense according to the flat Earth map?
It should have either been to Hawaii.
All right.
Yes, or back, or just straight ahead, because you see, it would have made it all the way into Los Angeles instead of the detour, which the distance is much more. It's more or less equal to just going all the way ahead.
All right. So let's take a look at this. Just gathering a little bit of information here. We're going to map this out live. So I'm going to share my screen out again. Bring back the ForeFlight over. Just go away. I'll leave that. Okay. So let's do this live. Share. Let the screen. There we go. All right. So we're going to come into our flight plan. We're going to clear out what was already there. Clear. Come on. Oh, there it goes. Clear. All right. So Taiwan, the airport code for Taiwan is RCTP. So we're going to go from there, and we're going to go straight to LAX. We're going to kind of start with that first. So with the draw of it, now we can see the flight path from RCTP to LAX. So that's kind of the path that it's taking. So now let's add on Alaska. So PANC is Anchorage, Alaska. And I'm also going to add on, so you can see where Alaska is up there, right?
Yes, I can see that.
Right. So I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add in Hawaii. So we're going to put in PHNL. All right. So the aircraft is flying along. I'm going to get rid of my keyboard here. There we go. So depending upon where the aircraft is at, so if it's, let's see if it allows me to do this. Let's see here. The aircraft is flying along, and let's say they're right about here, and something goes wrong. You can see it's this distance to get all the way to LA. It's this distance to get up to Anchorage, or got to go all the way down here to get to Hawaii. So on the globe, which is what this is showing you, which airport is closest? Which one's closest?
According to the image you have there, which is the different from the image I have here and from my globe which I have here.
Yeah.
According to your image, Alaska looks nearer. According to your image.
Yeah.
Yeah, but according to my globe.
Yeah. Well, I believe that. So you said according to your glove. So again, take your little piece of string.
It's a globe I bought, so it's more or less, it's more or less standard globe.
So take your little piece of string again and run it from Taiwan to LA and verify what I'm showing you. And this is why I asked you to bring the piece of string. That way you don't have to believe me. I want you to actually put the string across your globe and verify if what I'm telling you is correct or not.
If you can see Taiwan to...
Let me stop sharing so we can zoom in on your screen a little bit so it's bigger.
Taiwan to LA.
Where's Hawaii?
Hawaii is here.
All right. So what's closer, Alaska or Hawaii to your piece of string?
According to my globe here, it's halfway.
It looks a lot closer to Alaska there. I see Hawaii way down there, about another inch and a half.
Small dot down there.
Yeah. But honestly, which one's closer, Alaska or Hawaii?
It's halfway, according to my string here. So the point is, from the place that they detoured the plane.
I don't know if you got Taiwan. Can you show where you got Taiwan, just to be sure?
Taiwan is the small island here in this map.
Way down on the equator? Taiwan's not on the equator.
No, it's
Singapore's on the equator.
It's above. The equator is right here.
Yeah.
Taiwan is here just next to China. Of course.
Farther north.
So it's here. Sorry. The small island.
That's probably pretty close. Okay. Yeah.
That's Taiwan.
Yeah.
And here is Hawaii. The small dot here.
Yep. All right. So let's run your string across again.
Right here.
Yep. So let's do your string.
A string across Taiwan. Okay. From Taiwan into LA should look like this.
Yeah. So let's say I'm just going to make an
It's
assumption.
halfway on my globe.
Yeah. All right. So let's even say if it's halfway, that means they could have gone either way. They could have gone to Alaska or Hawaii.
Yes.
So that kind of makes it a little bit inconclusive, doesn't it?
Yes, you're right. If it's halfway, they could have gone either way, according to this globe map.
So that person's assumption in the book was incorrect because they could have gone either way.
Yes, they could have gone either way.
All right. Do you have any other another one of them that you want to look at?
But if you look into flat Earth, it's direct over Alaska. Yes.
Yeah. But the problem is that the Earth isn't flat, so that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, we can look into this one more here. The flight from Sydney to Rio. Sydney. Rio de Janeiro to Sydney. Emergency in Los Angeles.
Okay, so this will make sure I got it right. So they went from Sydney. They were scheduled to go from Sydney to where?
Sydney to Rio. Sorry, Rio to Sydney. Sorry.
Rio to Sydney. Right.
Yes.
All right, and where did they end up diverting to?
They diverted to Los Angeles.
All right, let me give me just a second to look up the ICAO codes for those. Let's see here. I know Sydney, it's just YSSY. Rio de Janeiro. Anybody in the audience know Rio's ICAO code off their head? Rio de... Yeah, I'm such an idiot. How the hell do you spell Rio de Janeiro? There it is. All right, so Rio's airport code is SBRJ. SBRJ. Okay. And I diverted the LAX, and obviously we know LAX. So let's go take a look at this one. Let's share my screen out again. Go. Let's take a look at it. I've not looked at this one before, so we're doing this just off the cuff to see what it looks like. All right, so first of all, so from SBRJ to YSSY, and they diverted to LAX, KLAX.
What I see here should have been a direct flight to Pacific, through the Pacific, direct to Rio, but I don't understand how they ended up here.
Are we sure that yeah, I guess I'm just kind of curious. Oops, let me hit share on this thing and get rid of my keyboard, because that flight from Rio to Sydney would really go directly south over Antarctica and back up again.
Yeah.
I don't know how they ever could have ended up in LAX. That one doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, it should have passed, maybe not really up, not really through Antarctica, maybe, on the Pacific, somewhere on the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at it on a flat Earth map, just for curiosity's sake.
To be clear, this is Rio to Sydney?
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
I don't know if that... I don't think a direct flight exists between Rio and Sydney.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That there is none. What Billy, what's the flight number?
That should have been I don't know whether this is the flight number. 832/833. Is it that?
Yeah, so we got Sydney. Sydney's here. And Rio. I can draw this on a flat Earth map. It's not a whole lot of fun. Let's just say roughly it's about right here.
Yeah.
So that would make the path
Great.
here to there. So even looking at it on a flat Earth map, why would they divert to LAX, which is LA is way over here? that wouldn't make any sense. They're way up by the North Pole. They would land in Canada or the northern United States. It would make sense for them to go to LAX, even on the flat Earth map.
Well, of course, no, they can't go right through the North Pole.
Did we get the flight number of that one so that we can look it up, Billy?
Yeah, let me get it.
Just give me the flight number. I'll look it up while you two talk.
Okay, this is the plane. That's the plane number.
The flight number.
Because I mean, from what you're telling us, and we don't have the flight number, we can't verify it. But even that assumption, if it was on a flat Earth, doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, if there's, I think I don't know whether flight 832 to 833. That's not the number, right?
Actually, that might be. So flight, what flight number?
832.
Which airline was it?
Varig flight 832 to 833.
I'm sorry, what was the airline again?
Oh, they say it's an extinct Brazilian airline.
Brazilian Airlines.
Yes.
Let's see if we can find that real quick.
I see CMP 832.
832 to 833. That's what I have here. I'm not sure if that's the flight number.
That gives me Panama City to JFK. That's not right.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
So, I mean, you have the book there. Just, what it should just say it right in the book. Just read that out of the book there.
Probably we can look at that's the number he got here.
Well, that one may just be, if we don't have a way of verifying it, AZU 832, yeah, it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, but he explained that it's extinct Brazilian airline.
Yeah, that's why I was looking for Brazilian Airlines. Their airline code is AZU, and so I searched for AZU 832, and it said that flight doesn't exist.
So he says they had a flight, Sao Paulo, Rio, Los Angeles, then on to Tokyo.
Well, since we can't find a record of it, it's kind of hard to verify.
Okay, but,
maybe we look at one other.
Maybe you can look at another one.
Yeah, let's do one more, then we'll move on to another topic.
Right. Okay. Cathay Pacific flight CX883 from Los Angeles to Hong Kong.
All right, where did they divert to?
And they diverted to Alaska.
All right, they're again to Alaska. Okay.
Yes.
So LAX to Hong Kong. Let's look up Hong Kong's code. That looks like VHHH. So let's bring this back over here again. Let's take a look at it. Clear. So we said from LAX to Hong Kong, KLAX to Hong Kong, VHH. Now this is going to be similar to the LA to Taiwan. Let's look at it anyways. So then we'll put the anchorage back in there again. P. Look, you already see it. I mean, you can already see it's going right by Alaska. So there's the flight path. So LAX to VHHH, there's Alaska right there. We got Hawaii way down here. So
Billy, just as an aside, a quick question. Are you able to get a refund on this book?
Sorry?
Are you able to get a refund on this book?
No, I can't.
Oh,
I can't get a refund on it. Why should I?
ouch. Well, I mean, no, never mind. Just all right. That's all right. Just checking, just as an aside.
Yeah.
Because I didn't provide the flight number or what?
Yeah.
Oh no, just I mean these two examples that we're able to find.
Yeah.
This
I mean, you
software
might
you are
want to
using,
just you might want to see about a
I'm
refund
not
on
sure
it.
which software you're using, but your software and my globe
Yeah.
shows are totally different in terms of distances.
Your globe is actually a lot more accurate than your flat Earth. But let's look at this one on the let's pick a different color here. Let's look at this one on the flat Earth map. So again, we're trying to find where the heck is that gonna be? Oh my god, I hate reading this. I got Russia, China. I'm gonna take my best guess down here. Yeah, there's Vietnam. So apply. So we basically say, let's see here. China be somewhere. It's off the coast of Vietnam, or it's above Vietnam. So it's got, I think it'd be right. I see Hong Kong. There it is. I just found it. So Hong Kong. Since I said that, I lost it again. There it is. Hong Kong's right there. So again, and then to LAX is right there. So let's draw our line between them. Hong Kong to LAX. And again, that one went right by Alaska as well. So diverting to Alaska works on that one in both the globe and flat Earth.
Okay, yeah, it works in flat Earth because it's in passes through Alaska on a straight line.
Yeah, so it works on both models.
Do you think, or do you believe airlines move in a straight line most times if it's direct flight?
Well, keep in mind, so let's look at this. When you say a straight line, let me bring this guy back over here again.
Like the shortest distance between 2 points is a line. Do you believe, or do you think they move in a straight line?
This is a straight line, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, but if I look at it from an angle, is it a straight line?
Of course, in a globe. Okay, my question is, do you believe they go in, the shortest route, the most airlines, apart from diversions?
Yep.
Do you think they go in a straight line? Once they are up, they move straight.
Yes. Yeah, and you can see here going across the globe. That is, they are flying a straight line across the surface of the globe. Even though they're technically, if you want to be really, really picky, I mean, in 3D space, they are kind of doing this.
No,
it is a straight line across the ground. Yes, it is.
I understand your model, the globe. I'm not talking about the curvature part of it.
Yeah, so you're right.
I've seen the screen which they put on the passenger seat. Yeah. I've not been on a long flight, maybe a short one from Nairobi to Djibouti and Qatar or Dubai, and they are they have a curve path. If you look mostly on the screen, I used to see they're curved, they're not straight paths. I'm not sure why that.
They're not showing you a 3D version on the little map inside the airplane. They're showing you a 2D version, which would look like this.
Yes, they give us the
But you can see side by side what the 3D version looks like, and then what the 2D version looks like. And you see both of them. Like if you look here, it's going right up against those bottom islands of Alaska. And if we look over here, right up against the bottom islands of Alaska. So they're showing you the exact same thing. They're showing you 2D view versus 3D view.
Okay, fair enough. I needed to know if they move in a straight line, which they do.
Yep.
So okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So I think we can kind of move on from this one.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one was pretty conclusive. It made more sense to go to Alaska. The second one, we can't even find a record of that flight. The third one it could have gone either way, because no matter if it was flat Earth or globe Earth, they both made sense to land in Alaska.
Yeah, it could have gone both ways. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to move, since I happen to have this tab here. These people right here, the One More Orbit team, I believe it was back in 2019. There's actually been many record-breaking flights they're basically doing polar circumnavigation. One was by a Pan Am flight. These guys did it using a private Gulfstream jet. They did it a couple of years ago with the goal of setting a new speed record. So they actually did it in 46 hours. Now, keep in mind, this is not a nonstop flight. No airplane can fly that long nonstop. So they basically had stops along the way to allow you to, or allow them to refuel. So they basically landed, refueled as fast as they could, changed the crew, and they got back in the air again to do this. And they made a documentary out of it. You can go watch it.
One more orbit.
One more orbit. Yep.
Website.
Yep. One more orbit.
Okay, I'll look into that. I'll look into that, into the details and all that, how they did that.
Yep. And when they did it, I made I used ForeFlight, and basically I plotted out, and I always do a silly advertisement. I plotted out the path using ForeFlight. So they took off from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. They went north to this point. This is, and I'm going to let it keep going here. So there's the North Pole right there. They came over, they landed in UACC. I don't remember that's basically UACC airport. It's been a couple of years since I looked at this. So airport, UACC happens to be, where is this? I can pronounce that. What is that?
Kazakhstan.
Yeah, Kazakhstan. So they landed in Kazakhstan, refueled, kept on going down to FIMP. So let's look up FIMP, which is in basically here. They kept going. This is where they crossed over Antarctica. On the right, came up to the bottom of South Africa, and then back up to Cape Canaveral. So, God, silly things.
I'll have to look into that. I'll have to look into that because it's easy to assume some stuff there because you can drop in Antarctica, then take another, not directly across, and drop there.
So watch the documentary. I think the documentary, it's probably online on Netflix if you can get access to that. The whole thing was tracked. They had GPS trackers running as they were doing the flight. It was certified by Guinness Records and a few other certifying agencies that yes, they actually did this and broke the record. So there was multiple independent agencies verifying that it actually happened.
I'll check into that. You see, we have had a lot of east-west circumnavigation. Nobody is arguing about that because it's something which is well documented and a lot of people have done it. But you see, these other ones, I think those are the first people who have done it. But I'll look more into that because I think I have to check, some of those, how they move their flight paths and all that. But east-west, nobody is disputing that. We agree on that. It happens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
West, north, south, west, east, west, west, east, that's okay. A lot of people have done that. North, south, first time I hear that.
Yeah, but look into it. Just do a search on polar navigation or polar circumnavigation flights. You'll find the history of all the flights that have done it. It's almost kind of a parlor trick or a record because there's not really a good reason to fly over Antarctica. It's cold and it's dangerous, and if you do an emergency landing there, you're probably going to die. So it's not a popular thing to go fly that direction over Antarctica. But there are flights that do it. There's obviously many bases on Antarctica that they have flights down there. There's even some, they were doing flights, I think out of New Zealand or Australia, where they would just, actually it was out of South America, where they would just basically fly you down to Antarctica, fly you around and fly you back up again, just so you can kind of look out the window in Antarctica. I don't know if I'd pay that much money to do that, but let's look into it.
Yeah, north or south, which one is more colder? Which one has extreme temperature?
Antarctica is a lot colder. Yeah.
I think they should be the same depending on the season in a globe model because the tilt, because of the tilt, sometimes the sun is nearer on this season, and then if you move to the other side.
Yeah.
So I believe they should have the same elements in terms of weather.
So Billy, what's the terrain at the North Pole? What's the land like there?
What is
the land like at the North Pole?
In the Earth ball. In the ball Earth, sorry.
So if you travel to the North Pole, say in the summertime, could you hang out on the beach and walk across the land to the North Pole?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
I don't think so. I'm not sure if it's. I don't know much about it, but according to the structure and description of the globe.
So, but show us the North Pole on your globe there.
North Pole should be here.
Yeah. So is there any land there?
No. According to this.
Yeah. It's only ocean. Where if you go down to the South Pole is an actual continent with land and very huge mountains. So the geography and the environments are totally different. You got one, the North Pole, that's really an ocean. And then in the South Pole, you've got a mountainous continent. So the weather's not going to be the same between the two because the environments are totally different.
Okay, fair enough. Different environments.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please, Mike.
I'm in Minnesota, 45 degrees north latitude. It's from November to March or April. There's a lot of snow and it's really cold here. In England at 50 degrees north latitude, farther north from here, if it snows, it often doesn't stick around at all, even though it's farther north. There's a whole lot going on other than just latitude to weather.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into that. All right.
I'm just arguing based on the model of the global. It should have had roughly the same temperature.
Then why is Minnesota not the same as England?
Same magnetic elements, same, of course, with different seasons because of the tilt. I expected it to.
But why is Minnesota not the same as England?
I have no idea.
Okay, so I don't know why you're bringing this up. It's kind of silly.
Anyway, that's just by the way. Because you see, they fly over the North Pole, but not over the South Pole. So I wanted, because they say it is too cold here.
He just showed you.
It's okay because of the continent.
Did you forget already that he just showed you a flight that went over the South Pole?
I'll have to look into that. He just showed me.
Okay, so then, but why would you make the claim that it doesn't happen? Okay, but why would you make the claim that it doesn't happen if you just saw?
It's just one of east to west. Nobody has an issue with that.
Okay, but why would you make the claim if he already showed it to you?
I've not looked into it.
Okay, so then don't make the claim.
I say that look into it.
Okay, so then, but don't make the claim then. Don't make the claim that it doesn't exist if you haven't yet looked into it.
Okay, I'll look into it then.
Good. So that topic's closed. Let's move on. Let's move on. Do you have any a presentation of that you want to do still, or does Robert? Where are we at here?
Talk about satellite. I'm not good into that, but I did my small research. You want to talk about satellite?
All right, and Billy, you have there's something buzzing on your microphone there.
Okay.
It sounds like maybe there's I don't know, something, a motor running or something.
Yeah, or a loose wire or something. Yeah, it definitely keeps going like.
Yeah.
Oh, let me guess. I think people trying to get to me because I'm using my cell phone.
No, it's kind of constant though. It keeps doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, or maybe I don't know if the phone's sitting on a desk, it's picking up vibrations from a desk or something.
Yeah, it's on a holder. Maybe I'll try and change.
Yeah.
And move it.
Yeah, we'll try to keep going. Yeah, let's give it a shot. So let's go ahead and kind of toss it back in your corner. What do you want to talk about next?
Oh, you want to talk about satellite?
Sure.
Yeah. And maybe I'll try to bring my points, and then maybe I don't know how we'll go about it. But first point, gravity with satellite. The moon is a satellite, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And gravity controls how planets move on the universe.
Yeah.
But my question is, why is it selective? Why is it gravity of the sun not pulling the moon, and vice versa? It only affects the Earth, but doesn't affect the moon. We'll get into that. Now, the satellites, we are told, I believe we do have satellites, but it's not as they tell us. They are not into space, because in my version of my model of the world, we don't have outer space. It doesn't exist. There are satellites, yes, but not in outer space. And they are not, hundreds of kilometers off out there. And the science behind it, how it all happens, is not clear. Because they say the ISS is 400 kilometers up. I hope I'm clear enough.
Yeah, you're buzzing quite a bit, but we can still understand you.
Maybe, okay, let me just hold it on my hand. Let's try. Okay, they say the ISS is 400 kilometers up.
Yep.
And it is size of a football pitch.
Correct. Yep.
And with panels are big, like maybe 1 acre of panels on both sides, and it's visible from the Earth, because sometimes they say you can look at it and see it like a light. 400 kilometers up, how is it possible to see that? Yet we cannot see an A380 aeroplane, 15 kilometers, 10 to 15 kilometers up. You cannot see an aeroplane, a huge aeroplane, almost the size of the ISS. And they said the panels is reflecting light. How do you see it at night? Which light is it reflecting? So it doesn't make sense. Possibly it's just some satellite held there and not 400 kilometers away. According to me, that's now I'm thinking. Maybe you can verify that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's possible to see it. It will be literally impossible to see satellite size of an A380 400 kilometers up because of reflective panels. And at night, how does it happen? Because it should not. How does it reflect at night? Now, another issue. We have had incidences of satellite falling from the sky, and most of them are attached to balloons. That brings me to the point of, they're not up there in space, they're just attached with balloons. We have incidences, mostly because I believe they are concentrated in the US, and so most of the incidences happen there. So satellite falls off, and they're all attached to balloons, hot air balloons, to keep it up there. Then, if we have satellites and they are so strong and powerful as they make us believe, how come Google launched a Project Balloon to distribute internet? Why not just use or launch a satellite, which is much more effective and much more easier? Why use, again, balloon to do that? Another issue, I think I have around 8 issues, which maybe let me just read it all.
All right, well, let's try to address a few of them that you already brought up before we lose track of where you're at. So, I'm searching through my photos. I bought a P900 a couple of years ago. So I was trying to find a picture that I took of an airliner at cruising altitude. It's probably going to take me too long to find it, but from an airliner perspective, I mean, it was filling the screen, the view screen of the P900. So an airliner flying at cruising altitude, which is about 6-7 miles up, it was filling the screen so that I could zoom in so much on it. I'm going to share my screen out again here. This is a video I took of the ISS. There's actually a pretty cool website you can go to called the I a transit finder. So if you go to transitfinder.com, the dash in there, transit-finder.com, and you can say, you know, I'm at this location. I'm going to zoom out here. So you could do this to yourself. So let's say I'm in Niger. So I say in Niger, I want to look and see when the ISS is going to be flying by and transiting the moon. And what they mean by transiting the moon basically means it's going to fly over the moon. So let's take, or about the sun. So let's take this one as an example. I can show it on the map. And I can say, if I'm at this location, come on, there we go, recalculate here. And it'll tell me, okay, on this day, it's going to transit the sun. It's going to come in from this direction, this high above the horizon, this altitude, and you can actually video this. So I use this to basically track, and I can jump all over the end here. This is what I use. So it told me on this day, I did this, oh God, it's almost 4 years ago. Time has flown by. So it was going to transit the moon, going from kind of lower right to upper left. You can even kind of look and see where it crossed the moon. We'll see how accurate it is when I actually go back and do it. So I went out at 4:45 in the morning, and I took the P900, I had focused on the moon, and then I saw the ISS coming across the sky. And I just kind of had the camera on 60 frames per second video. So I'm going to jump way over to here. This is kind of, I floated down, but this is the ISS. And notice how tiny it is. This is at maximum P900 zoom. It still looks like a little insect because it's so small. So you need something a lot better than a P900 to really see it coming across. But watch, I think I'm going to slow this down even more. So I want it to be super slow going across the screen here. So we're going to go this quarter speed. I'm going to start playing it. Watch the path that it takes across the moon. And it's pretty darn close to what Transit Finder predicted as it went across. Keep in mind, this is 60 frames per second. So if I go back and I show you in full speed, it happens pretty darn quick. So we see it crossing the moon. So let me bring it back, and I'm going to put it back in full speed just so you can see what it looked like normally. So I think the first time it went by, and I show you a couple of times, watch how fast it transits the moon. It's pretty quick. It's moving along pretty good. So your question about, well, why don't we see it all the time? I'm going to try to do just kind of a really poor man's drawing here. So I'm going to draw the Earth. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to undo. I am not a very good artist, so nobody criticize my, I don't want a rectangle, I want a circle. Why can I not? There we go, circle, there we go. So here's the Earth. Here is, we'll change colors over here. Let's say the sun is here. So here's the sunlight. Oh, now we got I want yellow though for sun. Yellow. All right. This color, yellow. There we go. So here's the sun. So the sunlight's basically kind of shining around the Earth. Here's the sunbeams. Sunbeams going out this way and the other way. So if the ISS, let's see if we can come up with a little ISS symbol here. I'm going to star. We'll make the ISS and then make it a star. So if the ISS is here, we're not going to be able to see it because it's in the dark part of the Earth. But if the ISS is here, now it's going to be visible to people on the ground. So we typically only see the ISS for about 2 to 3 hours after sunset and before sunrise, when the sun is starting to come up across the Earth, and it's going to light up the ISS because it's much higher up above the Earth. Kind of the same thing. If it was sitting down here, then we'd be able to see it as the sunbeams are going the other way. But if it's in the middle of the night, if the ISS is sitting over here, kind of opposite from the sun, you're not going to be able to see it. So you cannot see the ISS or really any other satellites in the middle of the night. And in fact, if you watch the ISS, so you look at the ISS tracker and it'll say, okay, you know, at 9 p.m. to 9:05 p.m., you're going to be able to see the ISS as it's coming by. And what you'll see is the reason on the back end of it when it says, well, 9:05 is going to go away, it will actually be in the middle of the sky, and all of a sudden you'll see it get darker and darker and darker and fade away. And it does that because it's now transitioning into, as it's moving along, it's transitioning to the dark side of the Earth, and it loses that reflection off the sun, and then it disappears. That makes
Right.
sense.
Okay, yeah, good explanation. So according to your explanation, we can only see the ISS when we are, you know, like 3 hours after sunset.
Yeah, about 2 to 3 hours after sunset and 2 to 3 hours before sunrise.
Okay, you can't see it in the midnight, in the middle of the night.
No.
Okay, right. Okay. Because the light and the light which is reflected is a reflection of the panels, the sun.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at a photo of the ISS, I mean, those solar panels are pretty huge. I mean, here's kind of like a good photo of it. So you're getting a reflection off the solar panels, but even like all these kind of the metal modules, and they're all silver. I mean, everything is going to be that's kind of light color like that. It's going to be reflective. So there's quite a few reflective surfaces that can reflect off of.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and even smaller satellites. I mean, if you kind of go out on a dark night, I'm sure where you're in the country where you're at, are you in a big city or are you kind of more in a rural area?
No, I'm a rural.
Yeah. So I mean, have you ever just gone out at night, like half hour after sunset, and just kind of laid on the ground and watch the sky, and you see lights going across the sky? Have you ever done that?
I never was interested in anything,
Yeah. Well, you should try it. Just go out on a really clear night where it's really dark outside. Just kind of lay on the ground on the blanket and just stare up at the sky. Let your eyes adjust to the darkness, and you'll see probably dozens of satellites going by.
I do watch the moon nowadays a lot since I started looking into this stuff. I watch. I try so much to observe nature, so that I can get. But I never used to do that before previously.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll check into that.
Yeah, but you take something like the ISS. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's a balloon," or "It's attached to a balloon," or it's a SR-71 space or aircraft that's going across the sky. When you look at the speed that this thing is going across the sky, and you look at the shape of this, if it was anywhere inside of the atmosphere, it would instantly be ripped to shreds because it's obviously not aerodynamic. So for it to be going that speed, it can't be inside of the atmosphere, but otherwise it would be destroyed by the air. So it has to be. I
understand it goes 9 times around the Earth in a day.
Yep.
7 or 9. I understand. That is it goes at Mach 25.
Well, now keep in mind, Mach is a reading of how fast you're traveling through a medium, like air. Well, there is no medium in space, so we wouldn't say it's going Mach 25 because there's no air out there. It is going about 17,500 miles an hour, but since there is no medium it's flying through, you wouldn't say it's going Mach 25 because Mach is a reading of going through a medium.
I understand there is an atmosphere at 400 miles. How high is the atmosphere?
Yeah. Well, let's look. Yeah. Well, actually, here. There is we're talking at that point, air pressure, let's call it 200,000 feet.
The pressure may be less, but we have an atmosphere at 400 meters,
Yep.
400 kilometers.
Well, yeah. Well, so first of all, let's convert 400 kilometers to feet. So 400 kilometers, oh God, it's so big, it's basically telling me, like, go away. I don't want to see it in that notation. Let's just see here. I think even if I do 250 miles, it's going to do the same thing. 250 miles. Well, let's do it in a normal calculator. There we go. So 1.3 million feet up is 250 miles. If we go look, this is kind of a atmospheric pressure chart. As we're going up, you're noticing the air pressure is getting less and less and less and less and less. The highest this chart goes is 250,000 feet. Remember, 1.3 million feet at 250,000 feet. It's now so small it's not even showing up anymore. So there almost is no air pressure. You're right. There is a minuscule amount of hydrogen and other atoms that are escaping the atmosphere up at that altitude, but it's essentially a vacuum. There's almost nothing left.
So there is no. I understand it goes 25 times speed of sound. That is the map we're talking about.
Not the speed of sound. The speed of sound is a measurement through atmosphere. There is no atmosphere there.
Okay, so my point was, is it possible? You see, it's not aerodynamic at all. It moves at 25,000, 17,000 miles per hour, 17,500 miles per hour. Yet it is still intact, nothing is happening to it, and it has solar panels which are not aerodynamic at all.
Yeah.
After all, who does the maintenance of the ISS? Because how does it happen with a crew of 7 people only on board?
Right, so Billy, I'm wondering if we could take a quick break and have you disconnect and reconnect, because the buzzing is getting so bad. It's
all right. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, let's just disconnect and come back again. Hopefully, we'll fix it.
All right.
While he's doing that,
read some super chats.
Yeah, we've just had a couple, but let's see. We've got James Weber that STS 134 video I sent before to you in FTFE debunks all this flurf nonsense from multiple different camera angles. Yes, they still have denial. It's their go-to. They'll just say nuh-uh. They'll just say it was all CGI without providing the least, the smallest little scrap of anything to support the claim of it being CGI. So Gary IOW has been a member for 14 months. Does a member super chat that says 14 months? Has it been that long? Crikey. Crikey. I learned Crikey because I watched Danger Mouse. There you go. The buzzing is gone. And so is Billy. We'll see what happens if he comes back. I hope he does.
I know, we have a good talk.
Ace Fox 1 Penfold, absolutely, that is. Crumbs, yep. A couple years ago, my kids, we played all the Danger Mouse videos with the kids, watched them all. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Is Billy recording the stream on his phone, maybe?
I don't know.
I don't know why that would change anything. But
who was that? The Reds that had a really good ISS video.
Reds has gotten one transiting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, his is better than mine because he's used the P1000.
Astronomy Live.
That's the one I was thinking about. Astronomy Live.
Got one with his telescope. So.
Yeah, he's done amazing work.
I met both of them in January. It was pretty crazy to see Astronomy Live, which I figured would be there because we'd been talking and he said he might be there. And then to hear out of the side of my, just to the side, to hear that voice. And if you've watched Red, you know that voice. Reds. To hear it, I'm like, oh, that voice. I knew it. And so I'm like, right away, you got to cover the face, the eyes and all that. And, you put on the welding goggles for safety. Um, so,
Oh, Billy makes it back here. Come on, Billy.
yeah. We got
There he is. He's coming back in.
Okay, Cretan Ball, who's been a member for 27 months, says, "You're doing a great job, Rob."
Oh, thank you.
There you go. All right, let's see if we hear
Hi,
something.
Billy. How you sounding this time?
I'm not sure if it's clear on your side.
Ooh.
I'm good.
Oh, that's much better.
Okay. I think it's background. Yeah, I have some bugs, I think. I don't know, maybe traffic outside.
No, that actually sounded like electronic noise, like there was something bad with the connection.
Or maybe maybe messaging, something on the background.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay. Well, I think
Is it still not clear?
no, you're actually really good now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I shared my screen. I wanted to show you that real fast, and I want to address your questions. This one was taken by Reg Rhetoric, a friend of ours. He used his P1000. So you kind of see the difference with using a P1000, how much more detail that he was able to get. But again, even a P1000 isn't a telescope. Well, let's go look at one other, which is done by Astronomy Live. This gentleman actually has a real telescope, a real high-powered telescope, and he's got tracking software, so he's actually able to track the ISS going across the sky. And hopefully it stabilizes a little bit. He's done this quite a few times. Oops, looks like he lost it. But he's actually kind of catching it as it's coming up across the horizon. We'll see if it gets any clearer as it gets closer to him here. There you go. That's not too bad. But now you're really starting to see some of the detail inside the from the ISS. I'm jumping along here to see if I can find a little better spot. But he's got, if you kind of check out his videos, he's got quite a few where he's tracked the ISS. This one was about a month ago. Let's see what this one was. So 11-inch. So yeah, this one's actually pretty decent. You see some detail on it. So let's kind of check out some of these videos from these guys. This is something where if you had a telescope of this type, anybody can do this. These guys are just private citizens who happen to be, he's an astronomy geek. He's got the equipment to do this, but anybody who has the equipment can actually film it going by like this. So maintenance real quick. The ISS, first of all, was designed for doing the maintenance that they need to do. So there's been, oh God, I think I've lost track of how many spacewalks on the ISS. 246. So there's been 246 spacewalks, not only constructing the ISS, but also doing maintenance on the ISS. They've had to go out there, replace power units. They're putting on new sets of solar panels recently. A lot of the things, the mechanical systems inside, they've got cargo craft that go up there probably about 5-6 times a year. They're setting up spare parts where the astronauts have to fix things and replace parts and send the bad parts back down to the Earth or have them burn up in the atmosphere. So they're constantly, in fact, they were saying when the ISS only had a crew of 3, they were getting very, very little research done because that crew of 3 was having to spend majority of their time doing maintenance. But now that they've got, I think they've got 7 people on board now, if I remember correctly. With 7 people, they're actually able to do the maintenance and still get a lot of research done.
Well, still isn't convincing enough. If you consider it's touted as one of the most complex scientific and technological endeavor ever. So you can imagine, a warship with a crew of, over maybe 1,000 or something, or a submarine, and you see it has constant maintenance, and you have specialists who work on that probably most or all of the time. You see 7 people only to maintain all that stuff, yet it is the most complex technological endeavor. It doesn't add up, because it should have been, to have something like the ISS, just if it was real the way they say it, to have something like that up there, it will need a space camp, according to my view, with a colony of guys living there just to maintain that thing up there. Because I don't think 7 people is enough. 7 people in around 6 months, in a period of 6 months. I mean, how do they maintain that thing? You know, it's really hard to fathom that information.
Yeah.
That's
Well, you're
you're
definitely making a large assumption. You don't understand what it takes to maintain it, but you don't have any evidence to say that it's impossible for them to maintain it.
Yeah, it's an assumption. I agree, because you see, to maintain just something of that magnitude and that in terms of the job it does and how it moves, it needs a colony of people there, like some sort of a base camp where people. I don't know whether you get my point. But
well, I get your point that you're making an assumption because you don't really understand the engineering behind it. It's not like, like a 747 aircraft, which is screaming through the atmosphere going 600 miles an hour.
I'm comparing it to what we have, what I see up here. The same kind of engineering ingenuity, the kind of crew involved in its maintenance and in its development. It's huge. It cannot just be a group of 7 people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're the one who built it, but to maintain that thing and to, the kind of job it does there, it's so complicated for that group of people only to be doing that.
So give me an analogy. Billy, stop for a second. Give me an analogy of a similar type of craft on Earth that you think that be similar to the ISS that would need that much maintenance.
I'd say a mega structure, I'll say a warship.
A warship? All right. So how big is that warship in comparison to the ISS?
Maybe 3-4 times bigger, maybe. I'm not so sure. I must assume.
So I mean, probably thousands of times heavier with thousands of times more systems.
Yeah.
It's really not a good analogy. I mean, the ISS was designed for it to be maintained remotely. So you've got all these modules, you've got, air purifying systems down to the toilets, to the solar systems, but the whole system was designed that, this power module went out, you rip it out, you pull a spare, and you stick it back in again. So it was designed to actually work that way. And a lot of the controls, a lot of the day-to-day operations of the ISS aren't done by the crew. They're done by remote control from Russia and from NASA. So it's not like those guys on the ISS are having to do every single thing on the ISS. A lot of that work's being done remotely.
Okay, fair enough. You see, you said it, I can't compare it because of it's huge and it has a lot of, that. But you see, the conditions up there also doesn't favor it. So it's more or less the same because it's much less and smaller. But, the conditions in Earth is favorable. There's no, we have an atmosphere, we have oxygen, we have all that. So it's more or less comparable because the challenges of maintaining it up there is not the same as the challenging of maintaining a mega structure or a warship here. Because, we are on the normal ground. But they are dealing with space, which makes it a bit more complex in terms of maintenance and all that. But that's just my view on it.
There's no doubt it's a hostile environment. It's very complex, but they design it to be maintained in that environment.
Okay. Yeah. They say they remotely do the maintenance and control.
For anything that can be done remotely, but there's obviously things. A piece of power converters break on the outside. They got to send a spacewalk out there to go fix it. I mean, there are things that can be done remotely that they have to get the astronauts to go fix. But there's quite a bit of work. And even controlling the robot arm is kind of crazy, but they can have people down in Houston controlling the robot arm on the outside of the space station out there doing work, and they're controlling it all remotely. Without having to involve the astronauts.
Fair enough.
So a question from the audience, if I might.
Sure.
We're more than an hour and a half into this, so maybe a few Q&A if we could. Microraptor's wondering, Billy, what's your experience that and Flyab USA, what kind of background do you have in aerospace engineering that you could say how much maintenance should or should not be done on the ISS?
No, I've not studied anything.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Then, so what was that supposed to be evidence for flat Earth?
Sorry, evidence.
I just want to make sure. Just want to make sure that you've had a chance to specify your evidence supporting flat Earth, because so far things like satellites doesn't support the shape of the Earth at all. All that you've done is kind of try to poke holes in the globe.
There's some relation, because you see this inconsistency what I think of.
I'm being very specific. What very specific evidence that just supports flat Earth? That's what really would be a fantastic thing if you have that.
Yeah, several. We have a lot of reasons or evidences. Because the big one, I have maybe at least around 3: lack of curvature. Because lack of curvature, and water will always find its level. That is one of my top 3. And then flight.
Awesome. Could you just quick share your screen, show the measurements of flatness then?
Sorry, you mean share my screen? I can't. I'm just using a cell phone. I don't have a computer.
Okay. So you're saying the surface of water is flat?
Yes.
So yeah. So then just do you have a link then that you could send us to the measurements of flatness?
The sea level is the same. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have measurements of flatness? Can you send them?
The measurements of flatness.
Yeah.
The measurements is the lack of curvature, of course, because if the Earth had a curvature, it would have the 8 inches per mile, 8 inches squared per mile. But if in reality, we don't see that. If you look, you can see way far off than you're supposed to be seeing. Should there be a curvature? And the explanation, the globe believer says that it is refraction, and the refraction really doesn't really show.
I'm sorry, you may be misunderstood. You said that the surface of water is flat. Can you show the measurements of the surface of water being flat?
No, I can't get the. I'm not sure if I get your question, but I'm not sure if I get what you really need. But I'm discussing the water level, the sea level. They always describe it. If you are in any other place on Earth connected to the sea level is always the same. They start the measurement from the level of the sea. They'll say the altitude of a certain mountain or a place is high depending on the sea level. So the level of the sea is taken to be constant throughout the world. That's why I'll say if the sea is 70% of the world's surface, if it's in a level, it means that, of course, the Earth is flat.
But
so Billy, can I ask a quick question? So the real quick, Billy, real quick.
Billy, just let Robert ask here.
Hang on. So if you're on the West Coast, say you're in LA, and what is the elevation of sea level? So you're on the beach in LA in California. What's the elevation of sea level?
Elevation of sea level.
Yep. If you're on the basically the Pacific Ocean, what's the elevation of sea level?
Zero.
Zero, exactly. So now you're in the Atlantic Ocean on the other side of the United States. What's the elevation of sea level?
Zero.
All right. So do you think that the curvature of the Earth is a measurement of altitude.
Curvature of the Earth is it should be. It should be. You see, if we live in this thing, of course, in as much as I get the level, 0 and 0 here, you see, and then it's up. But you see, the field of view, you should not be able to see at a certain point. Of course, in this model, I get the point. The level is same because of gravity and all that, but still, the field of view should not be able to.
Well, let's take a look at that real fast. I'm going to share my screen. I know we're getting short on time, so I'm going to go fast here. First of all, this photo, if you look at it, was taken by a pilot friend of mine from the cockpit of the A320 he was flying coming up on Vietnam. This is that sunrise. The sun was really highlighted in the horizon. He was at 40,000 feet. He took the photo using his Android cell phone, which is not a non-fisheye, through the front window, which has to be optically pure by regulation. It has to be optically pure. And you can see the curvature of the Earth. This is exactly what we predict it would be at 40,000 feet. You can actually see it. So I'm going to show you another. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you said that I wanted to confirm the height. 40,000 feet?
40,000 feet.
Okay. At what height did the Red Bull challenge?
We have to go look that one up, but I'm trying to keep us on track here.
It's a different topic, yeah.
So I took this video. I was on vacation in Jamaica some years ago, and the resort was kind of cool because the resort actually sat on a hill. So I was able to go down to the beach. I was up at my room, which is, I don't know, about 70 feet above the water. And I saw a ship way out in the distance. So I grabbed the P900 and I filmed it from there, but I also ran down to the beach. So I came down to the beach and you could just barely, you probably won't be see it on your phone, but I'm going to start zooming in, maximum P900 zoom on this ship. This is a very large cargo ship. And you can see, all I can see is the very, very top of that ship. So you see that, just the kind of the top of the bridge part of it. So then what I did is, I'm going to jump ahead here, is I zoomed back out again and I walked back up the beach. I took the elevator just one floor up and I started zooming back in on the ship again. And now I'm seeing more of that ship because I've increased the elevation of the camera. Now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to walk back. I'm going to go up another flight of stairs. I'm going to zoom back into the ship again. Now we see even more of the ship. So from the beach, all I could see was that very, very top of the ship. As I went higher and higher and higher, and I'm going to jump way ahead here now. I'm going to go all the way up to about 70 feet up. This is the highest point. I could have gone a little bit higher, but the highest point I took on this video. And now I see the majority of the ship. So if the Earth was flat, I should have been able to see the same amount of the ship from all of the different observation points. But from what I saw, come on, quit jumping around the camera. There we go. The higher I went, which gave me a bigger elevation point, I was able to see more and more of the ship. So
was the ship coming or going?
Keep in mind, this entire video is a little less than 9 minutes. I took it nonstop. I can send you the link to this video. So in that 9 minutes, the ship didn't move very much at all. And it also was going from left to right. So it was going parallel to me. It wasn't going away from me. So the distance of the ship didn't change much at all in that 9 minutes.
Well, even if you see, we expect probably the same. We expect the same view on a flat Earth also, because you are raising your level up, so you expect to see more beyond the horizon. But
so
you expect to raise your level and see more if you are up on a flat Earth.
So here's the globe, and here is flat Earth. So here's the globe. I'm taking it from that lower position. It's being blocked by the Earth. I can only see the top of the ship. If I move up higher, now I can see over more of the curvature of the Earth, and I can see more of the ship. if it's flat Earth, there's nothing obstructing my view of that ship. So why should it be different between those different observation heights if there's nothing in the way?
Yeah, because of you see, there's some because of the field of view. There's some kind of the water is playing. The water is not 100% level. There's some waves.
So we're missing. I've got a photo of that ship somewhere.
Walk some view of the ship. Of course, a large portion of the bottom will be blocked. But you see, according to the calculation of the curvature, according to what you say that's the curvature, and that should be a few miles of, not so much, maybe not more than 50 miles of what the boat should have been, around 50 miles, the ship. So according to the calculator, if it was correct, there are some other videos also which shows, ships which are way off, which are not supposed to be seen. And when you zoom it out, you can see all of the ship. Of course, half of it, you can see half of it. That is the surface of the water with the evaporation and all that will block the view of the way bottom of the ship.
So
but
can I ask, just to be fair, you said you talked about the calculation for the globe for how much should be blocked with distance. Would it? I think it'd be pretty educational if we were to take the equation to calculate the amount hidden bottom up for the globe and compare that to reality, and then also at the same time compare the calculation for bottom up obstruction for flat Earth to observation. So could you send, so that we could do it, could you send the formula that calculates the bottom up obstruction for the flat Earth, please?
No, I can't do it now at this moment because I'm trying to get a webcam so that I can be able to use my computer and do.
I don't think you don't need a webcam to just send us the equation that tells us the amount of obstruction bottom up for the flat Earth.
I need to show the explanations of how the formula came about.
No, you don't. Just send the link to the derivation.
Yeah, I'll do that. I can't do it now. I'm using my cell phone. That's what I'm saying. If I get a computer, it can be easier to link and do what you guys are doing, because you're using sensors, you're posting videos.
To get the formula for bottom-up obstruction for flat Earth. So you have that, you've seen it, the formula that predicts the bottom-up obstruction for flat Earth?
Yeah, I have to review that and send it to you. Or
so you have it. You have seen it, you know that it exists, and you have personally tested it because you don't want to be an indoctrinated person. So you've personally tested the formula, make sure it works?
Yes. No, I've not done experiments to...
Not experiment, just looked at observations and used the flat Earth formula that predicts the bottom-up obstruction for flat Earth and compared that to observations, somebody else's, not necessarily yours, and found that they match. You've done that?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I will look forward to I will hold you to that and have you send to me and Robert in our chat that we have on Facebook the formula that you personally used in the past to compare to observations that of the bottom-up obstruction, the formula for bottom-up obstruction for the flat Earth.
I will look into that. I'll look into that. And of course, I have to get my sources together and, some not necessarily my experiment, not necessarily me. I may get...
Yeah, I already covered that.
Who we believe the same idea, because the same way, not all experiments are from you. So not all experiments are from me, but I can get the formula, which should be like a parabola, because it's not linear. You see, most times, the globe believers want to say that it's a linear drop. It's not usually linear. It is increasing with the length.
Yeah,
the more you move,
So the flat Earth
more
is a parabola.
To some extent, because once you reach the radius of the Earth, you're already up to the point of the radius of the Earth. That's where it ends, and it behaves like a parabola. Not perfect.
The radius of
the
most, sorry. To be clear, the radius of flat Earth.
No, the radius of the. No, I'm trying to get the calculations for the globe.
No. I don't. No. I'm sorry. I want to be clear. I can do, and Robert, we can do the formula for bottom-up obstruction for the globe. You said that there is a formula for bottom-up obstruction for flat Earth, right?
No. Sorry. I didn't get you. I didn't get what you mean. But I don't know.
Okay, then I'll give me a second. I'll explain it better. If you, as you said, there's a reason why things are obstructed bottom for flat Earth. For flat Earth. Hold on, I'm not done. For flat Earth, you say there is a reason for bottom-up obstruction. What is the formula for the bottom-up obstruction for flat Earth?
No, I don't have the formula. I don't have it. Sorry, I don't have the formula for the flat Earth. I don't know if it exists. I don't know the formula for it. The formula for the globe,
it doesn't. No, I'm not asking for the globe. So how can you say that there is an expected bottom-up obstruction on flat Earth if you can't even describe it?
Because it's on the sea. I said it's on the sea, and on the sea because of horizon and because of the height. The higher you go, the more you observe, because it raises your.
But why?
But why?
Yes.
Because
why? You just said it'll happen, but you didn't explain why.
And then you see on the sea, of course, there's evaporation, from the bottom, and the density of the air that makes it, and then the field of view cannot accept.
But the density of the air would cause it to just, get blurry. But instead, we see a crisp edge between the water and the ship, for example, that we just saw. So that certainly wasn't the density of the air. It was something else. So what is it that's causing the bottom-up obstruction for flat Earth?
I'm not sure. I think I told you I don't know of any formula yet.
I didn't ask for the formula. I just said what's the cause of the obstruction?
Atmosphere density, which causes this.
I already covered that.
Which may distort the image. It may distort.
We already covered that and Robert showed you a very well non-distorted image of that ship being obstructed, where you saw the water and you saw the water ship. So there wasn't the density of the air that was somehow getting in the way. So what is the cause of the bottom-up obstruction for flat Earth?
It's just field of perspective and field of view.
Okay, those are just words. What's the actual cause?
The obstruction, and then of course you cannot see infinitely far.
But clearly he could see the ship. Okay, so don't say you can't see infinitely far. He could see the ship. So what was causing Billy?
With your own eyes, you cannot see.
Yeah, Billy. Yeah, we could see the ship though. So Billy, what was causing the bottom of the ship to be obstructed when you can see the top of the ship?
I'm trying to explain to you. I'll repeat again. First, the field of view. Of course, things which is up is more visible than what is down because of perspective.
Why?
That's one point. Because of perspective. Because
perspective makes things appear smaller with increasing distance. It doesn't cause them to disappear. So what's causing it to be obstructed bottom up?
I know you want me to say refraction.
I don't. I'm just pressing you to give it a very specific reason why it's being obstructed. And so far, you're evading that. Why are you evading giving a reason for the bottom-up obstruction?
That's what we're looking for, because I've explained to you field of view, perspective, and also,
You've just made claims. Do you have any actual reason, any explanation for it?
No,
Thank you very much. All right. No, you have no explanation, Billy.
my explanation
You
is
have
my explanation
no
is that
explanation, Billy. Let me make that really, really clear for everybody. Billy, you have no explanation for why things are obstructed bottom up.
no, I've told you three. I've answered you. Now it's there.
You didn't answer
Another
me.
thing.
You just said
You-
words. You just said
Number
words
one.
that don't cause things to be obstructed. Perspective makes things appear smaller. That doesn't make them get obstructed.
Number one, perspective.
Air density
That's when
causes things to get blurry.
Number
That doesn't cause it to get obstructed. You said that the distance is too far, yet we can see other parts of the ship. That doesn't explain it. You have provided exactly zero explanation for it.
what is the explanation? Curvature?
There's
Yes.
something in the way.
Yeah.
On the globe, there's something in the way. It's perfectly explained on the
is the
globe.
explanation?
I don't have to play stupid word games like you are, Billy.
Curvature.
I don't need to come up with buzzwords. There's something in the way. That's why you can't see it for the globe. Why can't you see it on flat Earth?
I've
There's
already told you
nothing.
something.
There is nothing in the way for flat Earth. So why can't you see it?
I've already told you three things.
You
Perspective,
gave me
one,
words. You gave me buzzwords. None of them make sense. Don't say perspective. Perspective makes things look smaller with increasing distance. Doesn't make
And
things
they-
look not there.
and they disappear
Why?
of a vast distance. You
Why?
won't see them anymore.
But
you-
we see the ship though. The problem, Billy, is the ship didn't disappear. We see the top of the ship. If we can see the top of the ship, there's no reason why we can't see the bottom of the ship on flat Earth.
It is because you see, if you stood there the whole time and looked at the ship, you see, it will all go, it will disappear.
Hey, Billy,
Because
I have a
Until
question.
now-
Just a second. Billy,
atmospheric density won't allow
Billy.
you to see it. So,
Billy, are you a religious person, Billy?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
why? So you would not want to be a liar, right, Billy? Because the 9th commandment tells you not to lie, right, Billy?
Yeah.
Okay, so don't lie. Okay, when I ask this question, don't lie. What causes the bottom? What causes the obstruction on flat Earth?
I'm not lying. First, I'm explaining. My explanation may not work to you because maybe you're looking for a certain word. You want me to add a certain word. But
I want you to not lie about this, Billy.
you see, you give me one example of a ship, which, and that's just one video, right? I can also give you videos of ships which are brought back into view after you cannot see them with the naked eye, then, supposed curvature. And
So you're changing the topic when you're cornered.
No, I'm not changing the topic.
You absolutely
I'm saying-
did. You completely changed the topic.
You have one video and then you click on that video. Why don't you show me 2 or 3 of those? Example, 2 or 3 of those.
There's no limit to the number of videos that I can show where things are obstructed bottom up. There's no limit. And none of them have an explanation for flat Earth except for lame buzzwords that have no plausible mechanism. That is perfectly called pseudoscience.
I disagree with that.
Clearly you do, because you don't have the scientific background. So
I disagree with that.
we're at 2 hours here, and Billy, I got to tell you, I'm kind of disgusted by your lies. You've spent 2 hours lying, so I have zero respect for you, Billy. Absolutely zero respect. You're a terrible liar. So I want you to go away now. Go. Just leave.
I was
Go.
not lying.
You're you're a liar. Go. Take off. Take off. All you've done is lie. Get a refund on that stupid book you bought. That book of lies that you bought. It's all lies, Billy. So don't pretend that you're a Christian or you care about the Bible or that you're religious at all. You've been lying this whole time. You didn't check anything.
Pick a topic you're comfortable with next time, because you see, the 2 previous topics we have spent 40 minutes discussing.
You showed flight paths that worked perfectly on the globe, but you didn't ever check them because you read that book and were indoctrinated by it. And
Yeah,
then you just repeated the lies. You repeated Effie Banjo's lies that he lied to you and you were deceived and you tried to deceive other people with it.
The reason why people see beyond that is because of some few inconsistency, which are
there's no inconsistency. You just don't understand it. That's all.
But you clearly, avoided that topic.
What topic?
Now
what topic was avoided?
The satellite. We were to discuss satellites.
Satellites. Satellites don't work well for you either. We talked about satellites. We showed video of the ISS that you have no explanation for. There's no balloons attached to the ISS, so it didn't work well for you either.
To disapprove what those guys are telling us, he only answered one of it. I have like 6 more points to show you really those things.
Yeah, you got destroyed on that one too. Awesome.
But we didn't finish on that, which is okay. It's your show.
Yeah. All right. Tell you what.
I'll defend it.
You're dismissed. You can go.
Right.
Just go ahead. Just tired
All
of
right.
tired of the BS. You can go. You can go.
All right. Cool.
Just kick him out.
There we go.
All right.
I
love seeing you get all animated, Mike.
you're just an idiot. Let me just make this really clear. And there's these flat earthers in the chat here. You guys are dumb too. That is a victim that we just talked to, and I got mad at a victim, right? But now he's spreading the same lies, so he's propagating the lies. So he's both a victim and the one that's spreading it.
Yeah.
He had nothing, absolutely nothing. It was just pure torture. Robert, you demolished everything he said. You had him pull a string across the globe. All of us saw, that it was closer to Alaska. And he's like, oh, it's 50-50. He lied.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for 2 flights. He lied.
Yeah.
He talked about the ISS. He didn't have any answers.
I mean, I'll be honest, I think I've done 3 or 4 debates, and I've never had them bring anything that was like, wow, that's actually really interesting. Let's look into that deeper. Never. I mean,
it's
yeah. I mean, if it weren't for entertainment value, we probably wouldn't do this.
Oh no, yeah. There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
I stand against the disinformation. It damages people. Billy clearly doesn't have any critical thinking skills, right? That's how he fell into this, right?
Yeah.
And you see people in here in the chat. They're funny. They're opinionated asshole is in here. He's like, oh, how come latitude and longitude is a circular Cartesian coordinate system? He doesn't even know what coordinate system it is that he's trying to describe. That's how bad he is at what he's trying to do. It's taught in 11th grade in the United States, the name of that particular coordinate system. But it's not. It's a spherical coordinate system. He doesn't even understand it.
Yeah. No, this was fun. I mean, he did challenge us. We made it happen. But I mean, he'll be spouting the same shit tomorrow, and I don't know, Mike. I don't know how you do this all the time, man. I don't mind doing it every once in a while. It's kind of fun, but you and Craig do to take these guys apart all the time, multiple times a week. I don't know how you do it.
There's you see how I trapped him in his bottom-up obstruction formula, because he agreed to it. He said that he had tested it, and then he backed out.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he tied a noose around himself, and then I'm like, hey. He's like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. Like, oh, yeah, sure. So.
All right.
Yeah, you got to light a flare. Yes, thank you, Robert, for coming along. Thank you to everybody who was here. Billy, go to school. I mean, you really skipped it all. Did a pretty bad job. Robert, you did great. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see Billy lying again on Facebook tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we'll repost the link to this thing and everybody used to say, "Hey, watch it again."
Yep. All right. We'll see everybody.
All
We'll catch you later.